चैतन्ये मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यसतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you for joining. Uh, so we have been discussing chapter 28, Canto 4. Today we'll continue from text number 16. So just a quick recap. We have seen that this chapter entitles Puranjana becomes a woman in the next life, means the death of Puranjana has been described here. So we saw that when time passed through, Puranjana could not realize that, and its disease, old age attacked, right? So Kalakanya, who is old age, she which and also daughter of Chandavega at the time, she attacked Puranjana, and eventually Puranjana, uh, and then the diseases, the soldiers of Yavanaraj, they attacked from all the gates of the city, which is basically as the gates of the nine gates of the body, or nine holes of the body, and being attacked by that, the because of disease and old age, Puranjana becomes weak, and then he also had anxiety and fear, and then he saw that his relatives, his sons, daughters, and wife, no one able to help him out as well. Yeah, and he got a prajwara, he got a very high fever. Yeah, and then this the superintendent, which is called as the life heir, they have been fighting with this time now and then, but even now they also become weak. Yeah, and also this guy with Prabhupada says that in the forest, when the fire happens, when the forest fire, the birds and animals, they 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 could flee away easily, but the snakes, they are the one who can't escape because they need to crawl, right? And that's how that's how because of this fire of fever, because of the fire of fever, even the life heir or the superintendent, which is also compared as five-hooded snake, they feel the heat of the fire, and they actually get burned in it. Means life heir gone means person is dead. Yeah. So let us continue from there today. Before we continue, any quick questions, comments from yesterday or previous discussions on this chapter?
Yes, Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, so the life pairs, so at the time of death, is that, I think in yoga they call it the inner subtle body or the sheath. Is that the same thing? This suffocates or something?
There are two things, subtle body.
Yeah.
So one is, actually there are three things. Let me try to find out that slide if I could. Give me a second, Prabhu. It might be difficult to find right away, but let me see.
And added to that before you answer, so when you're thinking of Krishna, it's in that moment of suffocation, it's still easy to see his form by some devotees, whereas not being used to, say, chanting or remembering him, it's impossible to remember him if not habituated. Is that the gist of it?
Yes, Prabhu. It is still possible for devotees to see Krishna at this time of condition of the life, because they have been practicing Krishna consciousness, and Krishna helps it actually. Otherwise, it's quite difficult, as we see in this chapter itself, where we saw that this Puranjana, he's being he's in anxiety that none of his family members, right, could help him out at all. Yeah, so that is true. Okay, I found it. Yeah, that is true in that way. And then what happens is, I mean, I have not been experienced yet, so, but as what devotee says and Prabhupada said in his book, is that if we practice remembering Krishna throughout our life, then Krishna will help us to remember himself at the time of death. So even many devotees, they see that they are nearing to the death. They at the time to help him remember Krishna, the continuously someone is read Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam or continue Kirtan goes on like that. So that's how being a devotee, as Krishna says, uh, when we surrender to him, he gives us fearlessness, right? So there is no fear of death because Krishna is taking care. Yeah. So in that context, yes, Krishna helps us to remember his lotus face, and I'll share one beautiful example actually. Here in Karna Bhavan, we had 3 alpacas. So Gaura, Balram, and I think the other name was his name was Krishna, if I'm not wrong. And one of them died. I think for some 5 years near about he died. So the devotees there, they could feel. I mean, they could saw that it seems like he's going to die now. One of the alpaca, right? And then they did kirtan for that. And as he died, actually they could feel some different aroma from his body as he died. So this kind of experience we can see even through animals. So what to speak of the devotees, right? So yeah, no doubt in that Krishna says, I give the abhaya, the fearlessness, the most fearful condition of the human being is the death, and Krishna gives fearlessness. Yeah, so that is one part of our discussion. Prabhupada many times mentioned as well, right, that Krishna helps us to remember himself. So we don't have to worry about it at all. So let me share my other screen, where I wanted to show you though we have discussed it earlier as well, but let us see once again. Yeah, I will share my screen. So let me know when you see my screen, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, okay, good. So what happens is, so Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita about the thing, and then it's coming from chapter 2. So I'll just take out 3 things here in this slide as we discuss about what it is. So if you see, this is a lady lying down. What we see as a physical body, hand, legs, these are called as gross body. Yeah, and then the subtle body is what we cannot see. This is our mind, intelligence, and false ego, which we can't see, but still exist. We can't say that mind, intelligence, and ego doesn't exist. These exist in the form of emotions. Yeah, and then subtler than that is the soul. So what happens in transmigration? What happens when this gross body merges back to gross body. It means when a person dies, then the subtle body with the soul, it goes to next body. So let me share the next slide now that we can see here. So here, if you see, there are three things. First is the soul, which is subtler than subtle body. Second is the subtle body, which you can see as an green. And then on top of that is the gross body, which you could see as a red, right? So soul is subtler, and then subtle body is the mind, intelligence, and false ego. And then three, the outer covering is the gross body, which is made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether. What happens is when someone gives up this body, gives us the gross body, right? It means the soul combined with the subtle body give up the gross body, and hence as soon as someone gives this net body, he acquires another body. That body could be anything. So what happens is called as reincarnation or transmigration of the one body to another. This metal body is being given up. This body, maybe you can say, in this body someone is human being or a person, right, or male. This body is gone, but the subtle body and the mind, intelligence, and ego carries to the next body. This next body determines the way this person has associated with the three modes in his past lives, not just one life, right? And depending upon that, we don't know the equation. Maybe Yamaraj know the equation in which body he puts again to the living being or to the jiva, and then he, according to that, he gets another body. Either it can be a body of tree, aquatic, devatas or demons or whatsoever, depending upon the way we continue our life. That's what Prabhupada says. Whatever we are now, coming back as a baggage from our previous lives. So the way we live our life now, the way we associate with the three modes in this life, this will define our next life. So Prabhupada always says that make sure we make the best bargain of this body. And the best bargain is not having opulent, family, bungalow, or any material thing, any, your fame, name. No, that's not the best bargain. The best bargain is going back to Godhead. Yeah. So this happens in general, but what happens in case of liberation, when someone goes to spiritual world? In that time, what happened is, even the material body and the subtle body, which is, you can see here, the green one, mind, intelligence, and ego, these are actually left behind in this material world. Only the soul travels to the spiritual world, where he gets another spiritual body. In the spiritual world, there is no, there is mind, intelligence, and ego, not false ego. There is no false ego, but these are in the material world now. This completely gives up, and we get a spiritual body over there. This happens only in a liberation. Otherwise, we saw the previous one. The both subtle body and soul travels to next body. But in liberation, it's completely different. Even the subtle body has to be given up or left up here. So it means our consciousness, our thought process should always be in a mana Krishna niveshata. Somehow or other, always be engaged in remembering Krishna. Right? Satatam kirtayanto huma. So remember Krishna all the time. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. That's very informative. Subtle body dies when it's left behind, when consciousness and soul move
Subtle
on.
body doesn't die, but what happens is, subtle body, it has his you know concerning devata, they get merged with that.
Sorry, it merges with?
It merges with the in the itself in the bhuloka.
Okay,
The intelligence goes back to the intelligent devatas in there only.
I
So
see.
it nullifies things.
Like dismantling a car, fall back to its place.
Yeah. We can
Right.
understand that way.
Okay. So it still lingers around or totally goes back
No, it's
into
gone.
elements.
So it's
Gone then.
when it is gone, that's only that the case when we can go to spiritual world.
Yeah.
Because this subtle body is connected to spiritual, to the soul, in the connection of our desires, our thinking, willing, our perseverance of the three modes. So when we transit, and Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that these three modes are very good, and the best is the mode of goodness. However, O Arjuna, transcend these three modes. Don't get entangled between these three modes. Passion is anyway is binding us. Yeah, ignorance is completely putting us more down as. Yeah, Urdhva
Mm.
gachanti satvata. Krishna says, if we engage ourselves in mode of goodness, we will elevate to Urdhva, means higher planetary system. But when we associate with passion, we remain in this material world. With ignorance, we degrade our human birth when we live in ignorance. But Krishna says that Arjuna transcend these three modes. That is called a Suddha Sattva, or Vishnu Suddha Tattva. Suddha Sattva. In that case, we can actually go back to spiritual world. Yeah. I think this will come again here as well in this chapter itself. Because right now Puranjana is just dying, it's not dead yet. So let us continue here. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Okay. Let us see from text 16 onwards. So I just gave a brief of what we discussed as of now about this chapter. Let us see from text 16. Duhitra putra pautramsha jami jamatra parshadhan satvavasistam yat kinche griha kosha parichadam. Yeah, Kishori Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. King Puranjana then began to think of his daughters, sons, grandsons, daughters-in-law, sons-in-law, servants, and other associates, as well as his house, his household paraphernalia, and his little accumulation of wealth. Hare Krishna.
Mhm. So now it's King Puranjana is near to his giving up his life. So generally, what happens? Why Narad Muni is stating this? Because he was always associated. This King Puranjana we saw, he was completely engaged in his uh, material activities and fully absorbed in his family life, right? So because someone has got attachment to all this material relationship, at the time of death he will think of that only. Yeah. So Prabhupada says it is not infrequent for a person overly attached to the material body to request a physician to prolong his life at least for some more time. If the so-called scientific physician is able to prolong one's life for a few minutes through the use of oxygen or other medicines, he thinks that he is very successful in his attempts, although ultimately the patient will die. This is called a struggle for existence. At the time of death, both patient and physician still think of prolonging life, although all the constituents of the body are practically dead and gone. Yeah, Prabhupada gives examples. Also, he says that uh, even if we give all of our money to the physician, still our life cannot be saved anymore. isn't it? The life year, when the prajwara, when the fever or high fever increases, or fever of death increases, then the serpent or life air, they die within that as well. There is no way to save it out. न जायते मृत्यवा कदाचित नायम भूत्वा भक्तवान भूय. Krishna says, everyone has to go through it. Text 17. Aham mameti svikritya गृहेषु कुमते गृही ददौ प्रमादाय दीनो विप्रयोग उपस्थिते. Yes, Gaurangi Mataji.
King Puranjana was overly attached to his family and conception of I and mine because he was overly attracted to his wife. He was already quite poverty-stricken. At the time of separation, he became very sorry.
Yeah. So basically, this chapter is giving us a clear picture what is going to happen in future if someone is attached. Yeah. It is clear in this verse that at the time of death, thoughts of material enjoyment do not go away. This indicates that the living entity, the soul, is carried by subtle body, mind, intelligence, and ego. Due to false ego, the living entity still wants to enjoy this material world, and for want of material enjoyment, he becomes sorry or sad. He still makes intellectual plans to further his existence, and therefore, although he gives up the gross body, he is carried by the subtle body to another gross body. I think this is what we just saw in the slides, right? The transmigration of subtle body is never visible to material eyes. Therefore, one gives up the gross body, we think that he is finished. Plans for material enjoyment are made by subtle body, and the gross body is the instrument for enjoying these plans. Yeah. Thus, the gross body can be compared to the wife, for the wife is an agent for all kinds of sense gratification. Because of long association with the gross body, the living entity becomes very sad to be separated from it. So just understand, keep always in the mind that whenever we hear about his wife, King Puranjana, right, it's all actually connected to the same jiva, right? And jiva is body. So because he is attached to his body, everyone can attach to his body, it's not very easy to give up his own body, right? That's why he's very sad because of that. The mental activity of the living entity obliges him to accept another gross body and continues his material existence. The Sanskrit words three means expansion. Through the wife, one expands his various objects of attraction, sons, daughters, grandsons, and so on. Attachment to family members becomes very prominent at the time of death. One often sees that just before leaving his body, a man may call for his beloved son to give him charge of his wife and other paraphernalia. He may say, "My dear boy, I am being forced to live. Please take charge of my family affairs." He speaks in this way, not even knowing his destination. Yeah. True. I'm just recalling one nice story. I just heard it. So, how actually someone get engaged to all these things? That is, we understood because of ignorance, and then three more play in the picture. There was a story. Once, a person, he was a kind of doing so many of criminal activities, and he got caught. And finally, the judge, they announced that what he says, you will be hanged till death. That was the decision for him. And then I think we know, we have seen many times in pictures as well, that the one who is going to be hanged, they ask for his final wish to fulfill, like that, right? So this person being asked that what is your final wish, and then he says that I want to see my aunt. Everyone will be surprised. Okay, you want to see your aunt? That's okay. So his aunt being called, and then the person went to see his aunt, and you know what he did? Yeah, I'm not sure it's a real story or a metaphorical story again, but I've heard it from a devotee. So this person, he just slaps on the ears of his aunt. The aunt was, quite old, and then everyone caught again him. He says, your criminal activity has not gone yet. You are about to be hanged, but still you wanted to kill someone. And then he called out. He says, why I am here is all because of this lady. And everyone was stunned. He said, what do you mean? He said that when I did the very first mistake, right? This lady knew very well that I did it, but she never stopped me, never guided me that this is wrong and you should not do it. And because she did not guided me, she never stopped me, I kept doing these activities more and more and more and more. And finally, in my youth, I'm standing where I am going to get hanged. So the context is that without the scriptural knowledge, or even if scriptures are there, we just ignore the scriptures and engage ourselves in the activities of either piety or sinful activity. We don't take the path of akarma. Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, karma, akarma, and vikarma. And karma is pious activity, vikarma is your sinful activity, and akarma is devotional activity. We just ignore this part, and then we get through the cycle of birth and death that continues and continues, right? So that is how we don't know what our destination is, because we don't try to find out. We don't know from where we came and where we wanted to go. We just think about this material life. That's what Narad Muni is trying to convey Puranjana with a whole story, that what are you doing and what you are supposed to do with your body, with this human life. Yeah. Now let us go more. Still Puranjana has not died yet. Still thinking about his family members. He's still in anxiety. And now let us see. Text 18. Lokantaram gatavati maya nath kutumbini vartishyate katham tvesha balakan anusochati. Rupesh Prabhu.
King Puranjana was anxiously thinking, alas, my wife is encumbered by so many children. When I pass from this body, how will she be able to maintain all these family members? Alas, she will be greatly harassed by thoughts of family maintenance.
All these thoughts of one's wives indicate that the king was overly engrossed with the thoughts of a woman. Generally, a chaste woman becomes a very obedient wife. This causes a husband to become attached to his wife, and consequently he thinks of his wife very much at the time of death. This is a very dangerous situation, as is evident from the life of King Puranjana. If one thinks of his wife instead of Krishna at the time of death, he will certainly not return home back to Godhead, but will be forced to accept the body of a woman, and thus begin another chapter of mortal existence. I think we discussed this verse before Prabhupada quote that verse itself. Yam yam apiswana bhavam tejante ante kalevaram. And that verse in the Prabhupada quoted. Yeah, here it is. Prabhupada's quote is, he says, whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. So this Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 8.6 and has to be true. Right? Okay, so King Puranjana has been attached. He is thinking of his wife, and he's thinking how my children will be taken care of when I am gone. So text 19. Na maya anasite bhungte nasnate snati patpara mayruste susatrasta varshite yat vagvayat. Yes, Urmila Mataji.
Hare Krishna. King Prajna then began to think of his past dealing with his wife. He recalled that his wife would not take her dinner until he had finished his, that she would not take her bath until he had finished his, and that she was always very much attached to him, so much so that if he would sometime become angry and chastise her, she would simply remain silent and tolerate his misbehavior. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, so he's thinking about his past association of his wife. A wife is always supposed to be submissive to her husband. Submission, mild behavior, and subservience are qualities in a wife which makes a husband very thoughtful of her. For family life, it is very good for a husband to be attached to his wife, but it is not very good for spiritual advancement. Thus, Krishna consciousness must be established in every home. If a husband and a wife are very much attached to one another in Krishna consciousness, they will both benefit because Krishna is the center of their existence. And Prabhupada is actually giving the solution how to remain in a grasta and keep Krishna in the center. Otherwise, if the husband is too much attached to his wife, he becomes a wife in his next life. The woman, being overly attached to her husband, becomes a man in her next life. And of course, it's an advantage for a woman to become a man, but it's not at all advantageous for a man to become a woman. Yeah, because it's again binding is going on. Okay, let's see text 20. Prabodayati ma vigya vayushi shokakashita वर्तमैताद्ग्रहमेधीयां वीरशूरपि निश्यति. ज्योति प्रज्ञा प्रभु.
King Puranjana continued thinking how, when he was in the state of bewilderment, his wife would give him good counsel, and how she would become aggrieved when he was away from home. Although she was the mother of so many sons and heroes, the king still feared that she would not be able to maintain the responsibility of household affairs.
Yeah, I mean, it's a natural thought actually. It's a natural thought. At the time of death, King Puranjana was thinking of his wife, and this is called polluted consciousness. As Lord Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita 15.7, Mamaivanso jivaloke jivabhuta sanatanaha mana sastrani indriyani prakriti sthani karsati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmented part. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. The living entity is, after all, part and parcel of the Supreme Spirit, Krishna. In other words, Krishna's constitutional position and the living entity's constitutional position are the same qualitatively. The only difference is that the living entity is eternally an atomic particle of the Supreme Spirit. Mamaivansa Jivaloki Jivabhuta Sanatana. In this material world of the conditioned life, the fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord, the individual soul, is struggling due to his contaminated mind and consciousness. As part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, a living entity is supposed to think of Krishna. But here we see that King Puranjana, the living entity, is thinking of a woman. Such mental absorptions with some sense object brings about the living entity's struggle for existence in this material world. Since King Puranjana is thinking of his wife, his struggle for existence in the material world will not be ended by the death. Very important point actually Prabhupada is making here. He says, since King Puranjana is thinking of his wife, his struggle for existence in the material world will not be ended by death because he will get another body. So as revealed in the following verses, King Puranjana had to accept the body of a woman in his next life due to his being overly absorbed in the thoughts of his wife. We see the pastimes of, Jada Bharata. Bharat Maharaj got attached to deer. And then it again there, right? So thus mental absorption is in social, political, pseudo-religious, national and communal consciousness is the cause of bondage. During one's lifetime, one has to change his activities in order to attain release from bondage. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 3.9. Yajna arthat karmano annatre lokoyam karma bandhanat. Yeah. So yajna arthat karmano annatra lokoyam karma bandhanat. If we do not change our consciousness in this life, whatever we do in the name of social, political, religious or communal and national welfare will be cause of our bondage. This means we have to continue in material conditional life. As explained in Bhagavad Gita 15.7, Mana sasthani indriyani prakriti sthani karsati. When the mind and the senses are engaged in material activities, one has to continue his material existence and struggle to attain happiness. In each and every life, one is engaged in the struggle to become happy. Actually, no one in this material world is happy, but a struggle gives a false sense of happiness. A person must work very hard, and when he attains the result of his hard work, he thinks himself happy. In this material world, people do not know what real happiness is. Sukham atyentikam yat tad buddhi grihnam atindriyana. Bhagavad Gita 6.21. Real happiness must be applied by one's transcendental senses. Unless one is purified, the transcendental senses are not manifest. Therefore, to purify the senses, one must take Krishna consciousness and engage the senses in the service of the Lord. Then there will be real happiness and liberation. Actually, Prabhupada is actually seeing the problems of King Puranjana. He's putting the solution in the purport. What shall we do, or what shall a person should do, or what shall a jiva do, isn't it? So in Bhagavad Gita 15.8, it says, Sariram yad avapnokti yad chapi uktaramateshwara grihitatvetani samyati vayu gandham ivasat. The living entity in the material world carries his different conception of life from one body to another as the air carries aroma. So, the slide which you saw earlier, in the similar way, the soul with mind, intelligence, and false ego takes another body. So, Prabhupada's quoting from here, you can see that as if the air carries aromas from one place to another, in the similar way, this soul, along with the mind, intelligence, and false ego, carries the living entity to another body, different bodies. Yeah. If the wind passes over a garden of roses, it will carry the aroma of roses. And if the wind passes over a filthy place, it will carry the strength of obnoxious things. Yeah. Similarly, King Puranjana, the living entity, now passes the air of his life over his wife and woman. Therefore, he had to accept the body of a woman in his next life. Okay. Yeah. Any quick questions, comments to discuss? If not, we can pause today here. We'll continue from text 21 in the next week.
Very
Next
quickly,
week,
Prabhu,
yeah,
for next time, if not today, if you can later explain what's the logic of it okay being a man, even though it's not okay either way, than being a woman. Earlier you were saying.
yeah.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Would like to add one point.
Yes, please.
In general, the the whole chapter we are reading, like whatever we think will become in the next life, something like that. Just the basic example, I think anyone would have experienced. In general, what we say that, okay, few things I have discussed today or with my friends, family, something like that. Then I got a dream like that. I became like this, that, something like that. So that's the one example which I got into my mind.
Yeah, it happens. Yes, that's true. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. So we'll see you on, we'll see tomorrow for reading Nectar Devotion. I'm thinking the next Monday is, okay, nothing is there in my calendar. So we'll continue. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for joining. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.